Okay, guys, I want to make a video here about reasons why Oblivion is better than Skyrim. Um, I know a lot of you guys, love Skyrim, and I get it and I don't get it. Okay, because in my honest opinions, Skyrim is the worst of the bunch, right? When it comes to the Elder Scrolls, and when we look at Starfield, we understand that it's getting even worse, right? So let's talk about Bethesda and about the size of the company. Now I'm going by what I know here, okay, all right? Some of this might be accurate, it might not be with the size of the teams, but I'm just going to roll with this and see if I am accurate, okay? From what I remember with Oblivion, there was like 5 or 6 of them sitting around the TV because it's in the documentary, right? The making of Oblivion. Watch it and you'll see what I say. There's 5 or 6 of them sitting around the TV set making the game. Okay? So there's not that many chefs in the kitchen. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you come to Skyrim, and then there's like, what, 50, 100 people there, right? Making the game. Okay? And a far more inferior product. Now you come to Bethesda now, who is bought out by Microsoft Studios, and they got thousands of people working for them now. Okay? And look at what they did with Starfield and how bad it was. So we go from Oblivion with 5 or 6 people around the TV set, and I mean that literally. Watch the Oblivion. I'll see if I can attach it to this. You know what I mean? Because there's an Oblivion one, the making of it, and there's the making of Skyrim. Okay, all right. And I think team size does matter because too many people spoils the broth, right? Too many cooks in the kitchen spoils the broth. So we have 5 or 6 around the TV set having fun and enjoy making the game with Oblivion. We transfer over to 50 to 100, somewhere around there, 50 to 100, making Skyrim. Far less superior than Oblivion. And you'll see why when I get to my other bullets here. I got stuff written down here so that it doesn't take hopefully too long to talk about this, right? But it is what it is for time. And then we transfer over to Starfield, and you got thousands of people working on the project. And look at how much worse everything got. You got bare planets. You got, ragdoll physics with the characters just flopping all over the place. You got the LGBT themes with reasons why I'm a trans person, and you got to listen to this whole monologue because I'm not going to allow you to skip it so that you can't get your rewards until you hear me rattle on about being a trans person. So you got the woke ideology in there, right? And look at this state the game's still in. And you got forced pronouns, right? So you can see Bethesda is not the answer here to this. But, so what the point of there I'm trying to make is that the more people you got in the kitchen, the worse the product is, right? Okay? All right? So, another problem. Now let's look at some of the bullets here that I have here. Well, there goes my Kleenex box. Okay. So some of the other reasons that I have here for Oblivion is better than Skyrim, and I'm not going to touch on everything. I'm just going to give you some interesting points here, okay? Is that it has a bigger map. Not only is it bigger space-wise this way, but also upwards too. You got that big, huge, massive tower right in the center of the city, right? The main city in that, right? Okay, so the map is also incredibly big. And the cool thing about the map is that it's very vibrant. The colors pop out at you. You got blues and greens and you got all these colors in that, right? And Skyrim is just like bland. Like where's the colors? And they say, and I prove this point by doing my stream there of my ultimate Skyrim challenge, right? If you watch that, I said, look, I want to go over to that ash mountain over there because according to Todd Howard, he said if you can see it, you can go there. And I went to go there and I was blocked by an invisible wall. Why is it there, this big ash mountain, and I can't get there. Why am I being blocked from not going there? And you notice too, when you go to climb up mountains, there's this little lip, right, that you could just frickin' put your knee on and climb up, right? And you can't go up that part of the mountain. It just won't let you. You ever notice this? You ever gone mountain climbing in Skyrim? You know, right? These are just a few of my gripes with Skyrim. But we're going to get into other things too, okay? All right? Um, so the map size and the map and the uniqueness of it, and when you're in the water and when you're by flowers and bushes and trees and everything, like, it just feels more alive and more vibrant. Also, too, what's interesting that I don't have in a bullet here that I just thought of is the conversations with the NPCs, right? You actually have NPCs interacting with one another in Oblivion that have daily schedules that they do. And they have conversations with one another and the whole bit at certain times of the day. They'll be over here and they'll be over there, and they'll be having conversations and that. And the conversations mean something. And if you go interact with an NPC character, they'll be like, hey, hi, how are you doing? Kind of thing, right? And what's interesting is that you have the option of actually, trying to coerce them into a dialogue there where they favor you. And then you can get more information from them and more information from them. And I'm not even talking about a quest giver yet, okay? I'm just talking about an ordinary conversation. Because you have this little pie wheel that's like, right out of the game Risk, if you ever played the game, or sorry, Trivial Pursuit, that's where it's from. It's from Trivial Pursuit, right? Where, you go around and you pick the spots that they like the most and the ones that they don't like, and you try to convince them to like you more, right? And this actually ups your speech ability. So you actually are accomplishing something. You're actually building meaningful relationships within Oblivion that you don't have in Skyrim. The conversations actually mean something. In Skyrim, you get, I killed a cave bear today. Okay, let's talk about that. Oh, we can't. That's your dialogue. That's it. That's it? So you mean I can't go up and have a conversation with NPCs and unlock a bunch of other dialogue and a bunch of other dialogue and a bunch of other dialogue and make it feel like an actual natural conversation? Seriously? Because that's what Skyrim did. They got rid of that little conversation chart and they went and took merchandise and speechcraft and made it into one thing in Skyrim. When it actually in Oblivion and the games before it was two separate things altogether. Your merchandise skill was different than your speech skill. And so with your speech skill, you would unlock different branches in conversations. And by doing that, by talking to random people, you would unlock different areas to find, different quests. Like, oh, I heard this person the other day fell into this cave and they discovered, and then you end up with a quest marker on your map there, like, oh, hey, check out this location. Why is this not in Skyrim? Why did they get rid of this, right? They got rid of a lot of things. They made the map smaller, okay? And not as bright or cheerful. It's very murky, right? And in the unique conversations, they're not there, right? People are one-dimensional. See, this is why everyone loves Serana, right? You know why people love Serana, right? Is because she's the only character in the game that actually has any depth to her character, that they actually put any thought into. Whereas you go and play Oblivion, you go and talk to that orc that's in the arena, right? And what is he? He's the Great Prince. And you go on his quest. Like, he has a quest. And, oh, that's something else, too, I want to do. I want to talk about that. I never thought about until just now. The main story. Okay, so, that's another thing there, too, right? And since I just thought about main story, I might as well hit on this here in a second. But the thing is, you got him sending you off on a quest to find out about his ancestry. And it's actually meaningful dialogue. And I ain't talking about the remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it game. I'm talking about the OG Xbox 360 game, okay? You know, I mean, this is what I would love to stream is the OG, you know, what do you call it? Their Oblivion game. You know what I mean? That's my personal favorite out of all of them. And I'm not doing this because it's my favorite. I'm doing this making it a very valid point, right? Like all these are valid points. They're not made up stuff, you know, just to hate on something. I don't want to hate Skyrim. I want Skyrim to be better. And everybody's out there. I can't get over Skyrim. Skyrim's the best game ever made. I'm like, are you on crack? I seriously want to go around bee slapping all the people that are making these videos. And that's what led me to making this video, okay? So, the Great Prince even gets into dialogue with you, talking about all these different things. Like, everybody has really awesome, unique conversations. And you don't get that experience in Skyrim. You don't get these dialogues that pop up with all these people that are going around, and you get to talk to them and actually interact with them and feel like you're involved in a real conversation. And as the conversation goes along, use that little wheel one, like tell a joke, and it'll go, ah, that was a good one. Oh man, what are you talking about? I hate jokes, man. What are you talking about, man? You know? And you can tell by their facial expressions what they like and don't like on the pie. There's 4 parts, you know? It's sort of like, you know, love this, hate that, and then the 2 in between, you know what I mean? And you got to go around the pie figuring out which ones they like so that the ones that they like you fill up and the ones that they hate you keep low, you know, to build up your conversation. You're going to get +5 to the conversation, +5 to the conversation, and then unlocks other dialogue branches, until they really like you, where you get like 80 or 90% in your speech to them. And that's only for that one character though. Everybody is different. They all have different personalities, right? Have you ever actually done this and gone and actually talked to people in Oblivion for real? I'm not even joking. And in Oblivion, they unlock more and more hidden dialogue as you go through it. And then you hop to another person, they do something else, and they do something else, and they do something else. Then you go to the retailers. Not only do they have the normal speechcraft where you can find out their background, their history, and all sorts of really cool stuff, but also too, they got mercantile, which is completely separate and done the exact same way, right? And you up your mercantile skill with just that one person. You have to do it with all the shops. You have to do it with all the people in order to really understand the depths of the conversations that you can have. And it's just amazing. That's not there in Skyrim. You get this chick saying, I killed a cave bear today. What did you do? And why can't we talk about that? We could in Oblivion. And they didn't say stupid stuff like that. They actually said stuff that was meaningful. You would hear 2 people having a conversation about something. I heard, you know, so-and-so over at, you know, Sword and Shield. Oh, he's the best, like, you know, handyman around, like, you know, when it comes to making armor. You want to see this guy about heavy armor. Hey, that's important. You know. Actually, you know what I found today? I went out for a walk the other day, and I stumbled across this cave, and there's some hidden treasure there. Well, that's really important. You know what I'm saying? They have conversations that are natural, flowing back. It'd be like, yeah, hey, how's it going? Yeah, okay, see ya. You know, in Oblivion, not in Skyrim. And the only ones that actually talk to you at all in Skyrim are the ones that give you a quest, like Ysolda. She wants a mammoth tusk so that she can take over the Bannon Mare. The other ones, like Rhea and stuff like that, and Champions, they go around and say, I killed a cave bear today. Oh man, you know, I got into to the Champions. I didn't think they would take me. Well, it looks like nowadays they'll just take anybody. And the guy's being sarcastic towards you in Skyrim, right? Why can't I talk to that guy and bee slap him with my vocal talents, right? Why can't I have a conversation with him? The conversations are gone. That's another thing missing. All right? Okay? And we'll get to the main story here eventually, okay? Oh, actually, let's talk about the main story since I'm thinking about it, okay? Here's a real slap that I just wrote down here that I just remembered, you know, and thank God I just remembered. You know, thank you, Holy Spirit. I love you, man. You're awesome. I hope you love Oblivion because you're stuck with me. Anyway, the thing is, I love the Holy Spirit. I love God. The whole thing is this, guys, okay? The main story, you're not the hero. in Oblivion. You're just a little peon. And I'm not even joking about this in the slightest. You're the courier in Skyrim. You know that guy that goes around and hands the note to the guy that's the main dude, right? That's you. You're the courier in Oblivion. You ain't the main person at all. You're just a nobody, and you stay a nobody throughout the whole entire main story arc of Oblivion. Oblivion is not about you. It's about you being a courier to deliver this amulet to Joffrey. You're a second-class citizen, maybe even a third-class citizen, along for the ride. And when you see the last, the biggest epic battle, I was like, why can't I do that? And that's what made Oblivion so awesome, is that you're not Dragonborn. And here's the problem with the main story in Skyrim, okay? Here's the biggest problem with the main story in Skyrim, is that after 2 quests, which are incredibly short, all of a sudden you're Dragonborn and the guards forgive you of all your crimes. Automatically. You could kill people and they could care less. Oh, I'm sorry, you're Dragonborn, that's okay, I'll let you go, but don't do it again. And you can do it again and again and again. You can do crimes a lot worse. Oh, I got caught stealing. That's okay, I'm Dragonborn, you can't touch me. Yeah, okay, just don't do it again. Oh, you know what? I just did this crime or that crime or whatever. I haven't murdered someone. You gonna arrest me yet? No, because I'm Dragonborn. And you know how easy it is to become Dragonborn? You do 2 quests. You go and you get the stone from Bleak Falls Barrow, and then you go to the tower, and then you're Dragonborn. Yeah, that's it, right? And in the main story, in the main quest of this whole thing in Oblivion, never, ever do you get away with crimes. You get arrested, you get your stuff taken away from, all sorts of bad stuff happens to you. Right? There are consequences to your actions in Oblivion, and there's 0 consequence for your actions in Skyrim. Fact. As soon as you become Dragonborn, you're untouchable. It's friggin' insane. Okay? The main story is just dull in Skyrim. It lacks context. And you go into Oblivion, and you realize what this whole thing is all about, and there's this big epic battle at the end, and I can't even describe it. You gotta see it for yourself. It's incredible. And when I was playing a Skyrim, people go to me, you ever beaten Skyrim? Once. Do you know why I don't beat Skyrim anymore? Because I feel like I got ripped off. When I actually got to the ending of Skyrim, right, when I was done, I was sitting there standing going, that's it? I did all this for that? That's it. You know, in Oblivion, I feel an emotional connection with the characters. And in Skyrim, the only one that I'll admit to feeling any kind of emotional content with is in the DLC with Serena. She's the only character in the game, period, that has any depth to her character whatsoever. They're either one-dimensional or two-dimensional, but with Serena, you actually feel like she's got a personality. That girl is deep in history and everything. Like, why couldn't they do that with every character in the game? You know what the beautiful part is about Oblivion? And maybe this will encourage you to play Oblivion. Is this, guys, okay? Everybody's like Serena in Skyrim. Everybody. Everybody has a backstory. Everybody has history. Everybody has, you know what I mean? Here, let me give you some examples of unique quests that you don't see going on in Skyrim, okay? There are no unique quests. The only thing that I bumped across that might even be unique was the cannibal quest line in Markeith, right? And I'm speaking the truth. I'm saying, look, guys, like, it's all just, your side quests and that. Like, there's nothing to it, And then I found out about this cannibals in Markeith by accident. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. But then it just ends, and you're just like, well, what now? Like that they should have really expanded on that. That would have been a really awesome storyline if they had done it proper justice, right? And the problem is moments like that, like the cannibal storyline in Markeith, if you haven't done it, I can do it for you and show you. The point is that they're few and far between. You go into Oblivion and watch me blow you away with this stuff in Oblivion. So here's the unique quests, just some of them, not all of them. I don't want to spoil too much for you because I want you to find out stuff for yourself, right? But I'm just doing this to show you the difference between Oblivion, early 2000, and Skyrim, which was 2011, which was like what, 6 years later or more, right? It's freaking insane at the differences between the two, right? That Oblivion's actually way better than Skyrim. So check this out for unique quests. The Arena, and we'll talk about this, we'll elaborate on them in a second. The Invisible Town. Going into someone's mind. That was wild. Going into a painting. And the unicorn. There's only one unicorn guarded by a whole bunch of, what is it? 4 of those ogre troll dudes. Those big, the minotaurs. That's it. And that's another thing too. The unique creatures in Oblivion that you don't get in Skyrim. See, I don't know if you notice this or not with Oblivion, but as you level up, and you're going to want to level up, you get very unique gear, but you also get unique creatures too. And that's the cool thing about Oblivion, right? Is that as you level, the gear levels, the spells level, but so too does the monsters. And they change completely. Like you get minotaurs. You get will-o-wisp, like Willow the Wisp, You get all sorts of really cool creatures, right? And in Skyrim, you don't get that. Well, you got 5 or 6 different creatures and that's it. I'm not even joking when I say that. Right? Because the only difference between a wolf and an ice wolf is the fact that, one's in the snow and one isn't. That's the only difference. Right? A troll's a troll, a wolf is a wolf, a dragon's a dragon. There's no differences between them. And I'm not talking about modding the game. I'm talking about just vanilla, base game here. And I'm not talking about the DLCs when it comes to either game. I'm using them as a reference point when it comes to Serana because she's the only one that's got depth in Skyrim that's actually worth talking to, right? And getting to know. You actually want to get to know Serana. Whereas everybody in Oblivion has a story where you go, that's interesting. You know what else I just remembered is a unique storyline that I didn't write down here? The one where you go out, the Siren's Call, I think it's called, where you go out and you actually find succubus, and you know what they're doing? Is they're seducing men, right, and then stealing their stuff. Like, that's what they do. If you play that as a male, they're going to try to seduce you. And if you play it as a female, they're going to try to recruit you. They actually have different story branches within the same story. And this is just a side story. A side quest, right? So the unique quests in Oblivion are just amazing. Like, you actually step into a painting for Pete's sake. And you're in that world. And I'm not even talking about the DLC. If we go down the line of the DLC, man, holy Hannah, the things that happen to you on Shivering Isles, like, is just insane, okay? Seriously. Separate thing altogether. I'm not going to get into the DLC stuff, right? You go into somebody's mind. You lose all your equipment, all your gear and everything. You go in butt naked into somebody's brain. And you got to explore their mind and try and set them free from the nightmare that they're stuck in. And you're like, am I going to live through this? I got nothing, man. I'm naked. You know? The painting. You get this paintbrush, and the only way to take out the enemy is to hit them with the paintbrush first and hope you don't run out of the ink in time, like, like the stuff that makes the ink melt, right? And then you can attack the enemies. But if you run out of that, and it's only for a limited time too, the window's small, and then you got to hit them again, and then you got to hope you got enough of the paint thinner. Because if you run out, and this happened to me, and I know this happened to me, and then I'm like, uh-oh, do I got a backup save file? Nope, I'm screwed, literally. You got a unicorn that has magical, mystical powers. That's only in one place out of the whole place, and there's only one in the game. And if it dies, you're going to miss out on the coolest mount you could ever get. That unicorn is freaking awesome. Right? You have a town full of invisible people with the creatures and animals around that town invisible as well. All because of somebody playing a practical joke on them. And they can't see each other. And they're like, this isn't funny, man. Like, seriously. And then you got the arena, right? Where you actually have progression until ultimately you become the grand champion. And then they got stuff for you to do after that. And it never ends. Where is this kind of imagination and creativity in Skyrim? Right? I'm talking without DLC. This is just the main body. This is no DLC, just the main body. Where's the creativity? Right? And speaking of creativity, we get to my next point, okay? Which is making your own spells. Not only did they take away from spells like walking on water, for example, which is in Oblivion, and levitation and stuff like that, but then they also took away the ability of you making your own spells. You know what the cool thing is with Oblivion? Is that you could have 5 or 6 spells, put them onto a list, and if you had the mana and the ability and the money to make the spell, you can make the spell, but in order to cast it, you had to meet the requirements of it, like be level 75 or be level 50, or have this much mana in your pool, right? In your spell pool. So therefore, you could actually create a healing shield, for example, right? Where you could do it to yourself, you could do it to the target, or you can do, there was one more other thing. So you got target, you got to self, and then, area of effect. Okay, so you can take a spell, have it area of effect, okay, have it target, or have it on self. And it gave you those 3 options. And then with area of effect, that it goes, okay, how big do you want the area? And the more bigger the area is, the more money it's going to cost you, and the more mana it's going to cost you to make it. But here's the cool thing about that. You could actually make yourself a healing shield. So you can take the shield spell, put it together with the healing ability, right? Okay. And then you could adjust how big you want the heal shield to be, where it could heal your whole entire party if you want to, right? So let's say you had a follower, for example, right? Okay. It would heal them. Everyone that's underneath that dome, right? So you could create this aura around you, and it can last for however long you want to, and then you can adjust the amount of health that it heals you. So you can do it really quick, or you can have a permanent shield that's there healing you hundreds of health points per second, and you can leave it up for like 5 or 6 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long you want it to, right? It's insane what you could do with this game, right? You could literally, excuse me, you could literally take a cat, okay? You could set it on fire with a fireball, and if you gave it, like, the spell to levitate, or whatever it is, the one that causes them to fly, you could turn it into a freaking comet. You could cast a spell onto it that you made yourself, which has fire and levitation, or whatever it was. There, I'm trying to think of the spell. And then the cat would fly off like a freaking meteorite or a comet. I was like, holy Hannah, that's cool. The amount of creativity and imagination is completely gone and wasted on Skyrim because there is none. And you go back to Oblivion, you can make some really cool badass spells if you got creativity and imagination. And you know what's cool about this? Is that you can buy this spell at the lowest cost, at the lowest level, and you can make it where it becomes expert level, master level, right? Because once you got that spell, right? Like heal self, for example, right? So let's say you got it at the novice level, you could actually make the spell so that you could increase it all the way up to master level of healing and restoration. But the kicker is you would need like to be level 75 to cast it. And let's say you're level 5 at the point you found it. You know what I mean? But the point is you can do it. That's the cool thing. So if you bought a low level spell, you buy a bunch of them, you go, I got an idea, I want to try this out, man. You could. And all you needed was the money, the mana, and the level of each one of the schools that you're in of Magicka in order to cast it. And you could. You could still make it, but you can't cast it. If you had the money, you could still make it. But you can't cast it if you don't have the mana or you don't have the level of that ability in that particular school of magic. Completely gone. All of it gone out of Skyrim. This is why I enjoy going back to Oblivion. Is because the creativity, the imagination, the ability for you to go and explore the world, okay, and for you to discover things on your own and to come up with some really cool things like making your own spells. And I'm not even going to get into enchantments and how different that is too. Because, man, I tell you, the difference between Oblivion and Skyrim, you're going to want to go play Oblivion over Skyrim any day of the week. I'll tell you that right now. Hands down, man. But the making of your own spells. You can take all the different schools, all the different spells, and mix them up and make whatever you want to create. You want to make a dome that heals you, you can do that. You want to make a dome and put it on the enemy that poisons them and makes them weak to poison and makes them weak to magic and makes them whatever, you can do that. You can do anything you want in Oblivion. And the only thing it costs you is this. Creativity. Imagination. Right? Ooh, I wonder what would happen if I put this spell and this spell together. I wonder what that would do. Do you understand how insulting Skyrim is to your intelligence? Oh, hey guys, you don't know where to go? Here's a quest marker for you. Oh, you know what? You got all this stuff and that here will allow you to fast travel, right? You have no reason really to go around and lurk around Skyrim because there's really nothing out there. But you go into Oblivion and you find cool things like a unicorn. And that's the problem here, right? The next thing I want to mention is character sheet. In Oblivion, you got major and minor skills, right? Okay? So you had actual class restrictions like armor, spells, and weapons, right? So they would have classes like cleric, which is what I'm trying to do with you guys, is give you classes, right? Because you know what's happening in Skyrim? They just give you a universal build and that's it. But you go and play Oblivion and the games before that, you know what they do? Not only do you get the universal build, but you can pick from one of their 23 or 24 classes. Yes, they have 23 classes. And then there's a 24th class which you can make yourself. So they got 23 classes for you to pick from with major and minor skills, and then a 24th class which you create for yourself. And you only get X amount of spots for your major skills and minor skills. And then the rest goes into miscellaneous. They don't level you. The thing that levels you is your major skills, and your minor skills help to boost the major skills. And everything else does nothing. Like literally does nothing. Right? They're miscellaneous for a reason. So it actually gives you a reason to pick a class based off of what you want to do from the 3 major classes that were known in D&D: Stealth, Warrior, and Magic. And I talked about this when it came to Kingdoms of Amalur, right? That they had the classes there too. And the stupid thing is that Skyrim doesn't have the classes. They have this universal thing where you can do anything. No wonder you guys are lost, because you have no major and minor skills. You have no character sheet. You have nothing there to go, okay, this is what I can do and what I can't do. And that's why I came up with a bunch of classes for you, you know. Even made stuff up. I made a Christian build. I made a tradesman. You know, stuff that you don't see at all, even in Oblivion. You know, I made up a bunch of classes. See, that's why Oblivion also gave you create your own class. So you can create tradesmen. You can create whatever. You know what I mean? They give you 23 classes plus create your own. What does Skyrim do? Oh, just go out and do everything. And hey, when you hit Legendary, guess what? Reset the points all over again and do it all over again. And get even more perks until you're so OP that nothing can waste you. Right? This is why I came up with the Ultimate Skyrim Challenge, because I think that Skyrim is a joke. I don't even take it seriously. I think the whole thing is just mocking everybody. And anybody who believes that Skyrim is the ultimate and the best ever has never played an RPG game. Because it's even missing the RPG elements, which you can go back to Morrowind and talk about that, which would be the RNG system. So we're missing the character sheet. And I do believe I already talked about the main story and the problems with that too, right? 2 quests in Skyrim, and you're Dragonborn and an untouchable. No one's going to arrest you for anything. You're free to do whatever you want to. You know, you can get away with anything. And you're the main big, you know, you're above everybody, right? And I mean this with a small g. You're a god. Small g, because there's only one real God, right? Yahweh, right? Amen? Amen. That's the problem. You are so, you're worshipped, you're idolized, you're glorified, right? Whereas in Oblivion, you're a nobody. You're just a guy next door. And actually, you start off as a prisoner and you feel like that. You feel like, pardon this little cuss word here, God, you feel like shit. Because you're treated like that. You're a nobody, man. No one knows nothing. And no matter how good you get at anything, you're not the hero of the story. No one glorifies you. No one worships you. No one praises you. You're just a normal person next door. You're actually the prisoner, which is even worse. And you get treated like that. In the main story, you are nobody. But 2 quests in the main story in Skyrim, and you become small g God. And that is absolutely insane and stupid. I'm going to leave it just with that. There's a heck of a lot more I could go through here, to be honest with you. There's a ton more that I could go through here. But there are so many problems with Skyrim. that you guys don't understand unless you talk to someone who's actually played the older games. I go all the way back to Arena, you know, and I could tell you just how bad Skyrim really is. I could tell you, like, the very first game that got, like, this is when Elder Scrolls got noticed, right? Was when they came out with Morrowind. You know why? Because it was the first one to hit consoles, and the only console to handle it was the 360. And that's why you bought the 360, so that you could play Morrowind. You know, guys, you don't know until you go back to the old stuff and get over this whole graphics thingy and stuff. That's just childish. We're talking about content here, right? We're talking about context and all sorts of other things here. And that's the problem with Skyrim. And you think Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be awesome? Are you friggin' mental? Please go check yourself out in a mental institution near you, because you're seriously deranged. Skyrim is the worst of the Elder Scrolls series. And you got the developers going, hey, guess what, guys? Don't expect the next game to be on the quality of Skyrim. And you go back to Oblivion, Morrowind, Daggerfall, and you see how amazing those games are, how big they are, the maps, how epic they are, right? You see all the systems at play. You see all the things you can do, like climbing up walls in Daggerfall, levitating in Morrowind, right? And you take a look at Skyrim, walking on water in Oblivion. You take a look at Skyrim. Where are all those things? Gone. Your class is gone. Your unique quests, one, maybe two, without DLC. Characters that are interesting, zero, unless you buy the DLC with Serana. You go into just the main game and the Great Prince alone, what a backstory that guy has. Holy Hannah. You find out the dude comes from the lineage of vampires, for Pete's sake. That's pretty friggin' cool. A friggin' orc with the backstory of being a vampire. Oh man, I don't want to mess with that dude. Please don't give me a hickey. You see how big his teeth are? No thank you. I do not want to get vamped by a freaking orc. Give me Serena any day. She can give me a hickey, but this one, no thank you. That's the whole point. Do you understand why Skyrim should not be praised, should be condemned, not condoned? This should not be the norm going forward. Go back to the older stuff. Go back to Oblivion and see that these things are true, right? Get into Morrowind and see what made that so awesome. And then get into Daggerfall. Because Daggerfall had everywhere. It had High Rock. It had all the areas, right? High Rock, Skyrim, Oblivion, which is Cyrodiil, Morrowind. It had all the areas. It had everything. Skyrim should not be praised. And people need to seriously go back to the older games and understand why I say what I say. Look at all the content that we got here. And this is just the base game. This is without getting into Knights in the Nine and especially Shivering Isles. Holy Hannah, Shivering Isles. Wow, that was insane. And here you got boring characters who do stupid one-liners like, I killed a cave bear today. No separation of speechcraft from merchandise. It's all one thing. Such a watered down system that you got a universal build and no character sheet at all. No restrictions whatsoever. No classes. And that would be important according to your race, right? because of your racial perks. If you're going to be a mage, you'd be, you know what I mean? If you're going to do stealth, you would be. If you're going to be a warrior, you would be, you know? It mattered. Now it doesn't. In Skyrim, doesn't matter. I can make a mage. I could get a dark elf, right? Who would be really awesome at magic. And I could turn him into a warrior. What a joke. And it is a joke. Now, I'm not here to insult your intelligence. I'm trying to explain to you why you should go back to the older games and understand why I say Oblivion is way better than Skyrim. I could do the same with Morrowind, and I could do the same with Daggerfall. Daggerfall was the pinnacle of the series, to be honest with you. Gave you a ridiculous amount of stuff to do and gave you a huge map, and the developers almost killed themselves making that game. Then would come Morrowind, and then would come Oblivion. And the worst in the whole franchise is Skyrim. And now when you look at Starfield with barren planets, forced pronouns, and forced listening to people talking about being trans before they give you your rewards for finishing a quest, you understand just how bad Bethesda really is. And you're looking forward to Elder Scrolls 6? You're an idiot. Go back to the older games and find out why they're so friggin' awesome. Get over yourselves about graphics. And if that's so important to you, why don't you just mod the heck out of it? Because odds are you're on a PC. I play on console. I have no problem with the graphics in the OG 360 game of Oblivion. And even Morrowind looks amazing as far as I'm concerned. You know something? When you look at the graphics in Oblivion, and you go and take it up against the remake, the remaster of Oblivion, right? And you look at the armors and that, and the clothing and everything, and it just pops out in the original one, and looks amazing on women, and men equally. But women or men are different, you know. Hello, women have tits, you know, seriously. They have a waistline, you know. And what are they? Unisexed. And they look disgusting in Oblivion remake, right? So that remake thingy there, they even took away the stamina. That's another thing I want to touch about. Okay, the UI of games, right? You know, all right, something just came to me just now. The UI, okay? We'll just touch on this as an example. The stamina system in Oblivion mattered. Because if I punched you, I would do damage to you, and then you would fall down, and you wouldn't be able to get up because you don't have the stamina. And then I would do damage to your health, right? And they completely overhauled it to, in the remake, there, the remaster, where it's missing completely. And that's the problem with Skyrim. There is no stamina there. So what's the point in making a fist build? It doesn't recognize it. You know, in Oblivion, one of the skills that you can pick, which is awesome, is unarmored. You actually have the choice of no armor at all, right? And you would dodge better and evade better. And then you have a fist. You could actually punch, right? And that was a skill. I don't have my Xbox on, or else I would go through it right now with you. But the point is, you actually have a punch, right? There's a skill to that. And then there's another skill called unarmored, which makes you more dodgy, right? As it goes up, you're able to get out of the way more and that. Like, in other words, they don't land their hits. And your punches mattered because it did damage to the stamina, so they would fall down. So fist builds mattered. You know? And now look at it. It doesn't matter at all in Skyrim. That's another thing. They overhauled the whole UI. We're getting more and more away from what true test was all about. Because you know what the true core game mechanics were? Stamina was one of them, definitely. But the RNG system was another one. If you go back to Arena, Daggerfall, and Morrowind. What do they have in common? An RNG system. Which means it looks like you're hitting it, but you're not hitting it because there's an RNG system running in the background that determines when you do hit. And then they westernized it by going with an action RPG instead of a CRPG. See, the first three were CRPGs. This one became action orientated from Oblivion on. And when you look at Skyrim, it's the worst out of all of them. So I forgot about the core game mechanics, right? Okay, so that's another point there too. Is the core game mechanics, right? And that's the problem, right? Like they're getting worse, they're not getting better. And if you're looking forward to the next Elder Scrolls, I'd say you're an idiot. I'm not at all. I'm not even going to even bother. You know, because of these reasons right here, I got everything I want in Oblivion, and if I want to go back to CRPGs where you have a RNG system and things like that, I got Morrowind. And then everybody's got Daggerfall because that's free, which isn't stealing because it's free, because Bethesda made it free. What they really should do is overhaul, is do a remake of Daggerfall, or at least do it to a Morrowind, and bring that up to date. But after what we saw to Oblivion, no thank you, because I don't want you destroying the games that I loved. And that's what they did with the remake, the remaster of Oblivion. They destroyed it. They ruined it. They didn't make it better, they made it worse. You guys' idea of quality of life is where I just go gag me with a spoon, because that's not quality of life improvements. That's just being cheap. So anyway, those are my points. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. God bless you. You have an amazing day. Take really good care of yourself. And thanks a lot for your time and that. I really do appreciate it. God bless you. Have an awesome day.